Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today spawning in the southeast corner of the map, playing in blue, we've got Demu representing Team Liquid, also going by the name of Vlad the Sad, playing as the Abbasid dynasty. And his opponent in the northwest, playing in red, we have got, well, I don't know what this name's, I have no idea, but he's playing as the English. What I do know on Google Translate, it translates to Ling Wiu, so I guess we're going to be calling him Ling. Either way, he's playing in red as the English. Welcome everyone to Dry Arabia. I hope you guys are having a great morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. A cracking matchup today, the English versus the Abbasid dynasty. Something we haven't seen for a while, actually. Two of the original civilizations in Age of Empires 4. Two fantastic civilizations. The English, of course, have gone through a lot of changes, can do multiple things these days. Can opt for going for the Abbey of the Kings, getting a king out nice and early, put some pressure on, allows them to get some breathing space, to go for a second town centre, maybe of Castle Age, it's always a good option. The Abbasid dynasty, an incredibly strong civilization when it comes to their economy. They can often obviously get fresh foodstuffs, much cheaper, although it's actually in the mill now, I believe. There it is. There we go, reduces the cost of production by 35%. And also, multiple town centres is always usually a thing. They can open up military wing to get some early units out, 2 spearmen, 2 archers to be exact, and to try and defend against any sort of Abbey of the Kings play. I'd be kind of curious to see how the English play this, because you typically expect the Abbasid dynasty to open up military wing, which then allows them to get 2 town centres behind it, or Castle Age. And so, because they spawn with 2 free spearmen anyway, in the feudal age, I wonder whether that's going to push the English to go for the Council Hall. It's always an option for them, of course, Council Hall. Great landmark to be able to produce those longbowmen quickly. It's a potential option for them. Now, I'd like to say a very big thank you for everyone who's been supporting the channel, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube. You guys are absolute legends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The growth has been great so far, and long may it continue. And if you have been enjoying the content, make sure you do subscribe to the channel, because there's plenty more casted games coming your way. Going to be going for an early wheelbarrow, typically done by the English these days. Very common to start off with that. Gets that eco running very quickly and smoothly. I'm kind of curious to see how this one will pan out. Now, forward gold for the English is not ideal, but should be able to protect it. Should be safe early on. And he's certainly going for the miniature wing early. And we'll be a minute and a half to the feudal age, but we'll get there. Actually going to be going up with the miniature wing, yeah, as we expected. Going to give him access to boot camp and composite bows, which works really well. I wonder whether this is going to be one of those old traditional matches where we saw Council Hall longbows versus the archers from the Abbasids, which do have boot camp in the feudal age and then get composite bows later on. It could be a fun one if that's the case. And it will be, in fact, the Abbey of Kings. So we'll be up against 2 spearmen, 2 archers opening anyway for the military wing for the Abbasid. So should be able to defend pretty well. It's going to be Kings coming out, or 1 king at least, from the English. I'm kind of curious if he'll move out to stone in the end to get second town centre or not. If it does go for a second town centre, it'll make a lot of sense for the Abbasids to go 2 town centres themselves. No real harm in doing that. And the thing about the Abbasids is so nice for them. If they do go for multiple town centres, they can pump out the villages as they do usually. But more importantly, the villages with a significant cost reduction allows them to make a lot of military behind it as well. But that's one of the things when you go to town centres, it can be punished quite often by other opposing civilizations, because you'll kind of slightly lack units because of the food cost of the villagers. But of course, with the discount of the Abbasids, it makes it a little bit more possible for them to make a lot more units out quicker to help them defend that second town centre play. It's actually probably the big deal about their second town centre play that makes it so good. It's actually one of the reasons why people still open up military wing instead of going for the eco wing, which can technically give you cheaper town centres. The benefit of the fresh foodstuffs is actually significantly better than having the cheaper town centres, because they've, obviously fresh foodstuffs gives you cheaper villages throughout the whole game. The second town centre discount is a one-off discount, but the military wing gives you so much breathing space that actually, having fresh foodstuffs on its own is actually a big enough deal to really maximize the benefit of 2 town centres. We'll see though, because we have seen some sneaky plays for the Abbasids going for feudal age aggression. It's always an option to them, and look, he's opening up the stable and archery range. One of the reasons why I like that play as well is that the Abbasids, when they do get the tier 1 to their House of Wisdom, the Golden Age 1, they get the extra 10% gather rate on the villagers, which makes the economy stronger than the English's. I'm about to charge on in. Gets a couple of hits with the spearman though, nicely done. And the great thing about that 10% gather rate extra from the House of Wisdom, which he's already got by the way, it's actually 15%. I apologise, it's 15%. Holy smokes, that's massive. The benefit for that is that the English don't get anything similar. What their bonuses are reliant on is really the cheaper farms and the faster gathering of food, but that doesn't really come into play until later on in the game. Perhaps around 10 minutes or so, that's when really the English transition to farms typically happens, unless they're going to venture out into deer camp. And so, for that first 10 minutes of the game, or at least maybe 8 minutes before the tier actually came in, the House of Wisdom tier came in, you know, the Abbasids have a stronger economy. I wonder if he did actually get fresh foodstuffs yet. Yeah, he's got it in already, so the village is going to be significantly cheaper. 32 food rather than the usual 50. Massive saving. Going to be adding a barracks and archer range of his own, and like the thing is, opening up with the king is that the tempo aggression for the English is kind of halted a little bit. And what he want to achieve by getting the king is try and do some damage early, but the miniature wing for the Abbasids really counteracted that. Speaking of which, the king just about to run on in. Just hanging out in the middle sacred site, and I think this suits the Abbasids quite well. Let's go for spearmen, longbowmen behind this, a typical army composition of the English. The addition of the king is a nice one, actually. We'll be able to heal up the units. Especially considering that these units now can place a campfire, if I'm not mistaken. I was going to move on up. Just a bit of scouting information more than anything. Vlad the Sad, Demu. Going to spot that with his own scout and be quite optimistic about taking that fight. It's just a king on his own, trying to snipe things maybe. There's that second town set of play now for the Abbasids. Going to be adding that in shortly. Kind of curious to see how the English play this one out. If he's going to go for the castle age behind it. If he's going to go for feudal age. This is the kind of scary part though for the Abbasids, is because now that it's going for a second town centre, like the economy is already pretty decent for the English. It's a much bigger difference between starting off with the second town centre as opposed to adding it later, right? Because like the economy scales a lot quicker. Well, I say quicker, but you know the difference by now could have been maybe 5 villages, 6 villages if you got the second town centre a little bit earlier. But what this allows now is that the villager difference is going to have much more of a less of an effect, right? Because there's a big difference if you're 10 villages ahead when both civilizations only have 20 villages, as opposed to being 10 villages ahead when both civilizations have, say, 40 villages. It's a much bigger proportion of the economy, and so it's a little bit harder to defend now for Demu, potentially. But we'll see, though, because obviously the fresh foodstuffs will come into kick in quite nicely with that second town centre, so we should be able to make a lot of units. He's getting the blacksmith upgrades as well. The iron undermesh, a really important upgrade for them. Steel arrow coming in from the English, which is definitely one that they will want. The question is, where does he place that second town centre, actually? He might need to play it quite condensed. Horseman diving in on the longbow. Spearman about to... Yeah, I mean, they're going to get good contact with the horseman. The horseman did manage to back away in the end. Longbow's focusing on the archers for now. Spearman trying to chase on in, but you can see the archers playing for the spearman. If the spearman numbers go down, that will leave the longbow very exposed. King trying to get as much value as possible. Spearman numbers still decent though, picking off quite a few horsemen. Demu needs to back away because those longbowmen peppering those arrows, and spearman numbers still alive. That's a good engagement for the English overall, I think. The archers, with their fast movement speed, will be able to run on out of there. Now, I'd be kind of curious to see how Demu places this second town centre and how he tries to defend it, because one way I've seen the Juicy Legacy do it really well is by making multiple outposts. Can I place the town centre relatively close to home? Play it conservative. It can't really venture out too far out. The second town centre these days, pretty low on HP, only 7 garrisonable spots. It's not easy. Only 2,500 HP, only 7 villagers can garrison inside. So yeah, playing it very conservatively. And so whilst his villager count will rise, he hasn't really protected any key resources out of it. Might look for a farming transition later, which is not ideal, but English looking to try and extend the positioning with the outpost and the network of castles bonus. Longbow's going to focus on many archers as possible. Going to be losing a couple of spin, which is not ideal actually for the English, because now it allows the horsemen to dive on in. I think this will be a great fight here for Demu overall. Spearman numbers just not enough for the English, and they're getting peppered by arrows. Don't forget, I will check in a moment if he's got boot camp. It looks almost like he has. Still one spearman in the mix, and In fact, he's actually focusing on the longbows. I mean, he should be focusing on the spearmen, surely. Yeah, changes the attack now. I think Demu, because he didn't attack that spearman for quite a while, allowed actually those spearmen to get huge value. The king going to pick up a couple of archers on the retreat. Now, boot camp is not actually in, by the way. Doesn't have the gold for it. That's a bit rough. Right, second town center is in. And this is what we're talking about, right? Having extra villages when you've got 40 villages already is much less of an impact than, say, if it's at 20 villages for each civilization. But it does have the second town center running, so an extended feudal age would be pretty useful for Demu. But it'd have to be a really, really extended feudal age. Which, to be fair, I'm not too averse to seeing. That'd be kind of cool to see. It's venturing out onto the deer camp on the right side. With some villagers, no outpost there to defend, but the great thing up against the English is their mobility is not great, right? So the chances of scouting that out for the English is not huge. And even if he does, by the time he gets there, it buys a lot of time, right? That's one great thing about going up against the English at this stage of the game. The English, you know, it takes time for them to build the forces, and they don't really move out very quickly. Boot camp is now in, so the archers can be a little more tankier for sure. Spearman brace. But they take the bait and he's picked off 2 spearmen for free. Bear in mind, the longbow are actually going to have a tough time retreating. I love the usage of the king to pick off reinforcements though, and the longbows are forfeit at this point. The movement speed aren't there. That's the benefit of having archers. They've got larger, faster movement speed. Adding in man-at-arms is an interesting play. It doesn't have iron undermesh just yet for them to make them extra tanky, but I do love the switch because it's going to force these archers to, you know, tank on them, and the amount of damage output, it's going to be, you know, these guys should tank quite heavily. The trouble is he doesn't have an iron undermesh yet. The king, again, not for the first time, going to start poking and prodding in these archers. But slowly but surely, Demu is starting to build a villager lead, starting to build a military lead. That's going to make things very tricky for the English, but we are starting to see that farming transition, which is massive, because now that this farming transition is in, the army composition or army production is going to be very continuous, very stable for the English. We cannot say the same for the Abbasids. The Abbasids are going to have a very hard farming transition in the next 5 to 10 minutes when these deer camp run out. Bear in mind that the Abbasid dynasty, adhering to the Islamic tradition, they can't get access to the boar, and it means that, yeah, they will certainly need a heavy... Oh, Demu, no, okay, he maybe walked a little bit too far into that. There's only 4 man-at-arms, so it's not the end of the world. It does have iron undermesh though, so that certainly helps those man-at-arms, but yeah, good number of archers should be able to deal with these 3 man-at-arms. 3 soon to become about 6 though, or 5. It's definitely a big tug-of-war effect here, but again, I think this favours Demu, because behind this it does have a second town centre, right? Oh no, he spotted it in the end. The king spotted it. Well, that's huge. So that farming transition might need to come a little bit earlier than Demu would have wanted, and the man-at-arms getting good value here, allowing the longbow to get good value behind them. Horseman, he was trying to tank there for as much as possible for the Abbasids, but did go down. It's really all about the man-at-arms here. You can see absorbing a lot of the arrows, but I love the fact that Demu gap closed there. He wants to pick off as many of those archers as he can, longbows I should say, and he will get a good number of them, but the defensive advantage might come in clutch here for the English. We'll have to see. But yeah, he's picking off a lot. It's a great fight for Demu already. I mean, even if he loses the archers, he's got a lot of value already from them. Yeah, this is looking decent. Taking out most of the longbowmen. He's falling victim to the man-at-arms a little bit. Yeah, starting to lose a couple of them for sure. He's going to try and retreat as much as possible, but the man-at-arms, you know, they're pretty good at hacking and slashing. Well, king going to dive on in. You see the formation shuffling there? Increase their movement speed a little bit for a second. Man-at-arms also going to be healing up with the king alongside him. Here come the reinforcements. It's going to have to be mass archers. This is where it becomes a little bit tricky, though, in terms of extended feudal age. Because the man-at-arms play for the English, it gives them in a good spot. And eventually, if the man-at-arms scale up to a large enough number, the archers, you know, they will struggle. But for now, the man-at-arms are not in those good numbers yet. So the archers can deal with this. Getting some really good hits in. Starting to wall up. I love this play, by the way, because he might be thinking about castle age before too long. It looks like he's got the gold for it. Doesn't quite have the food for it. He may not necessarily have the standing army he needs. Knight, the king charges on in, and there's now a big pushback. Does lose the king in the end. So a bit unfortunate there for the English. Man at Arms going to hack and slash as much as they can. But again, this is all about buying time for the Abbasids. Allows that second town centre to really work its magic. But look at the farming transition. The food is going to be coming out of his ears for the English. Let's take a look at the gather rate. Look at that. Almost double. The food income. It just needs villages and gold, and it should be able to take up to the castle age relatively soon. The archer's going to focus on the longbows, I think. All the man-at-arms should be able to take out the horsemen pretty quickly, so I'm not sure he wants to get too close to this demo. Longbows trying their best to use the range. The big thing is actually now the longbows are going to get too much value because they're slower than the archers, right? Sure, they've got extra range, but once they're out of the range, they can't do too much. And look at this, the archer's getting a couple of free hits on the man-at-arms. The man-at-arms need to stay a little bit closer to the longbows if they can. They are tanking out. I don't think he has enough longbows here. Only 2 man-at-arms, 3 man-at-arms in fact. They're going to get taken out pretty quickly. Pretty low on health, and he's definitely going to chase that down. Demu should be able to take a really good fight here if he takes those longbow numbers down. I mean, there's still 1 or 2 man-at-arms tanking heavily. But I think it should be a decent clean up. And yeah, he's definitely committing to it now. Oh, these longbowmen. He's definitely overshot here a little bit. The English. Well, having said that, another man-at-arms coming in from the north. This is the thing about the English. Things can snowball pretty quickly. There's a lot of weak longbows there, I've got to say. Yeah, slowly but surely they're being taken out. It's a big pick off here by Demu. That might give him a window of opportunity to get to the castle. Although having said that, reinforcements coming in from the English, a couple more man-at-arms, we'll see this out. Yeah, it's just the man-at-arms. You know, 1 or 2 of them trickling on in, it causes a big problem. Thank you so much, by the way, Cheesy Plums, for the follow on Twitch. Welcome on in, by the way, everyone watching on Twitch Live. Hope you guys are enjoying the cast so far. If you're watching on YouTube, if you want to watch the games live, it's worth dropping a follow on Twitch side of things. Maybe you might be catching me live next time. Watching on YouTube is absolutely fine as well. Bear in mind, one big difference of watching live between on YouTube and Twitch is that on YouTube, of course, it can be in 4K. On Twitch, unfortunately, I'm capped to streaming in 1080p, but, you know, 1080p is still not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. It's on the deer camp in the south, but yeah, we talked about the farming transition being needed. Demu has maximized the time without needing the farming transition for a long time, as long as he can. He's on berries, but there's only a certain amount of food he can take on the map. And that could be a really good timing for the English, I've got to say. And the fact that the English are keeping up the pressure does worry me about Demu's position. And behind this, actually, the English might go to the castle age, which I think I'd quite like. He's got a good amount of army, especially man-at-arms. It'd be difficult for Demu to really push on in, so now could be a really good time to go to the next stage. The question is, does it go with the King's Palace or does it go with the White Tower? The White Tower is very typically done, and I think it's a very safe way to do this, but King's Palace could give him a scaling of his economy, and he might do it, because, you know what, that'll help him catch up on the villager count, right? I think it makes a lot of sense, and yeah, that's exactly what's being done. Effectively, a second town center will be able to match the Abbasid dynasty. I think it's a smart move. Sure, the Tower Victory gives you a lot of defense, but he's got a lot of units anyway, and I think this makes a lot of sense to be able to keep up with the Abbasid dynasty, because ultimately when you tech up this scenario, he is still a town center behind. This helps the English keep up a little bit. It helps make this game a little bit less stressful, because if he stays 1 town center versus 2 town center, eventually the eco will kick in. King Palace, a really good choice. But he's trying to micro this as best as he can, Demu. One thing to consider, by the way, if you play against the English a lot, and yeah, Simon mentioned it in chat actually. So when you do have a massive man-at-arms like this, what you want to do is try and drag out the man-at-arms as much as possible out of the range for the longbows, just so that the longbows can no longer range, and then they can never keep, the longbows can never keep up. The movement speed, the slowest movement speed of all these units is the longbowmen. So you make them fall out of range, they can't keep up. It forces the man-at-arms to dive on in a little bit too far forward, you get a couple of free shots, when they retreat you get a free shot, and so it can be really effective. Having said that though, if the man-at-arms are in good numbers like this, they don't have to mind, they just keep on pushing on in. Longbows though, they're getting distracted, they're focusing on the mill, that's not what they're meant to be doing. Oh god, the micro there by English is not on point. That's not ideal, but he's obviously macroing behind us, getting the King's Palace. Getting to the castle age is important. It's going to be the eco wing for the Abbasid dynasty. Getting Fertile Crescent will be giving him access to cheaper economic buildings and houses. But I gotta say, the fact that he's got a good standing army here, the English, is going to be powerful for sure. The Abbasid dynasty do have the potential to make mangonels though. That could be a really good point for him. But quite likely to get composite bows, right? You kind of have to at the situation. Doesn't quite have the wood for it though. But we'll be upgrading the veterancy on those archers and also getting the second upgrade, balanced projectiles for the attack upgrade. Longbows attacking some of the villagers, trying to narrow that villager count slightly. He's getting a couple of good pickoffs here. Demu trying to buy as much time as possible. And there's just so many man-at-arms. This is the big problem. Like, man-at-arms have just been upgraded. He does have access to possibly get some crossbows. He's getting them now, but I mean, he's going to pick them off with the longbows. I love this play by the English, I've got to say. He's picking off the crossbows, which is the big danger unit, really. Even with composite bows, I think the man-at-arms will dish out a lot of damage. On longbows, all they really have to do is focus on the crossbows as much as possible. Man-at-arms will continue the chase, but there does come a point where actually he might lose too many man-at-arms, but he's picking off with the veteran. Oh god, this is great for the English. Because, I mean, ultimately, Demu is forced in towards a rock and a hard place, right? What does he focus on? Does he focus on the longbows? Does he focus on the man-at-arms? The trouble is, if you focus on the longbows, man-at-arms will chew them apart, and that's exactly what's happening. It does have a couple of lances which will help against the man-at-arms, but doesn't have quite enough. Both players with the veterancy upgrade. It doesn't have balanced projectiles, to be fair, on these longbowmen. Got plenty of food and gold here. The English is floating quite heavily. But I think if he gets more barracks production, man-at-arms flooding here could be really problematic. Demu, this is looking a bit dicey for him. Well, the man-at-arms numbers start to dwindle because of the crossbow numbers being added in. It does have defender's advantage after all. Maybe the English will lose all the army. Possibly. Oh, what? Okay, I mean, he will lose longbows. There's nothing he can do about it. He just has to take an effective trade as much as possible. But he's coming with another wave on that wood line. Maybe he has to regroup because actually there's still a good number of archers there. Good military count for Demu. Overall, defends it. Defender's advantage. Obviously coming in clutch. Also getting some really important eco upgrades. Getting the agriculture, increasing the gather rate from farms by 15%. Goes a long way to counteract the villager gathering rate from the farms from the English. But he's struggling on gold. I wonder whether relic play could be quite important. The great thing for the English, he does have a lot of map control. I would love to see a monastery being placed. I would love to see some of those relics being picked up by the English. I think he kind of has to. And there it is. There is that monastery. Around the back, massive farming transition. I wonder whether the English start to think about rams. I mean, it could be curious to see if he wants to try and push in a little bit more. He's going to get the network of castles bonus, which is definitely a must in this situation. Maybe even a mangonel for the English too could be quite useful, but it's obviously very heavy on the wood and gold cost, which he doesn't really have at the moment. Golden Age Tier 2 is in. Increase the research speeds, which is probably very helpful at this stage, of course. Or was, at least, when he was getting the veterancy upgrades. Possibly going to pick off yet another villager. He's done great work here. Look how many villagers he's killed. He's killed 16 so far, and the English have not lost a single villager. That King's Palace is going to even things out heavily. The Abbasids actually are kind of in a problem here. Considering the ecos are relatively similar, or yeah, I mean they are very much similar. If anything, maybe slightly better for the English, although the gather rate from the House of Wisdom is pretty good. The bigger problem is the armor composition, right? The man-at-arms are going to tank heavily. I'm not so sure he's got enough crossbows here, so if he loses the mass of archers, this is a problem. I think he's overstepped here a little bit. He felt like he possibly needed to. Maybe a mangonel could have helped him here, but he's going to lose a lot of these archers. Oh, not for the first time though. These longbowmen, they're focusing on the mill. Oh, this is the problem of attack move micro. It's a big problem of attack move micro in Age of Empires 4 that this happens. Longbows could actually get some hits here. Oh, yeah, this is the big problem with attack move micro. Something you always have to be conscious about when you play with archers. That sometimes aim moving is a problem. But there is that mangonel. This is what we're talking about. This is a key moment for Demu. This could be one way he holds on to the game. As long as he keeps them protected. Now, sure, the man-at-arms are very tanky against it, but you know, a couple of mangonels can really help. A lot of idled economy here on the west side. Gonna just have to create another playpen for himself. Looks like the English, though, trying to focus on that. That's a lot of idle farms. Oh, that's massive, by the way, guys. That is huge. That is a lot of wood investment. Completely idle. 22 farms. That's big. It's going to be slowly being pushed back, though. The English have to back away. That mangonel going to be dicey. He might tank it. He might move in with the man-at-arms, but well, it could be problematic. It's backing away. Added a couple of crossbows of his own, the English, though, to deal with the lancers. Man-at-arms tanking heavily. Trying to back away with the longbows. In fact, the mangonel only hit one longbow in the end, so not too terrible. Coming in the south from those man-at-arms. The archers in a good spot here. Going to surround the mangonel, and the mangonel lives, and this is going to be a good fight overall here for Demu, I think. It might start to change though with the next wave coming on in. Bear in mind, relic-wise, the English have picked up 2. Demu's actually managed to pick up 1. Crazy enough, considering all the mayhem that's happening. And Demu with a nice hold, looking to pick up maybe this relic if he's going to keep it safe, at least for now. What's really concerning for Demu, though, is that he doesn't have much map control, and slowly but surely he's going to run out of gold, although, to be fair, this is a fresh one. Oh, actually, to be fair, it's half taken. Yeah, gold could become a problem. You got the 2 8,000 tile gold veins that I love the fact that English are starting to take this one already and keep map control of it. Without gold, Demu might struggle, although having said that, I mean, most of his army is archers anyway. But he will eventually need gold. It's not something you can do without in the mid to late game. And the fact that Demu's lost so many villagers, it doesn't mean that the English are ahead. Adding in a couple of horsemen, not a bad shout against this number of crossbowmen. I actually like it. 3 mangonels as well. For Demu, should buy him some time. A cracking game of Age of Empires 4 so far. Hope you guys have been enjoying it. I certainly have. Still curious to see how this one will pan out. Mangonel's going to back away. Yeah, I think Demu needs to get a coordinated fight, right? As is always the case against the English, you take one bad fight, it can be curtains. If you take one good fight, yeah, it can definitely change. Horseman man-at-arms diving on in. Good front line for the English, but good shot with the mangonels. Decent shot. Could have been better. But where are the other 2 mangonels? Oh, they're being made. They're not made. They're not made yet. That's unfortunate. The timing on that was disastrous. If you had them, could have changed it completely. Although, to be fair, that mangonel still staying alive in the north is huge. The English still taking a really bad fight, despite... What's going on there? Do you guys see that visual blood of the mangonel? Holy moly. But yeah, now with 3 mangonels, yeah, now they're all complete. This is going to be dangerous for the English. You might need to actually get some springles out of this. The big thing is not having the White Tower does mean he has to actually get siege workshops himself. But he's flooding. He's going to come down the south, trying to snipe out mangonel if he can. I'm not so sure he'll make it in the end. Wait, he might get one in the end. Oh, the change in movement of those archers. He just about gets it. I think he gets it. That's big. Now limited down to 2 mangonels, but still 2 mangonels are going to dish out all sorts of damage. He's charging on in. Good crossbow numbers, still trying to protect the mangonels as much as they can. Horseman numbers starting to build on up. Man-at-arms, they're engaging. They're taking out a lancer. Slowly but surely, he's gap closing. He's starting to overwhelm. Demu, I don't think he holds this for too much longer. He's losing a lot of those crossbows, and that means the mangonels have to retreat. They could be picked apart. Bear in mind the network of castles bonus is absolutely huge in this scenario. In fact, it might just be network of citadels. No, it is network of castles. He would need a castle himself to get the network of citadels, and obviously without the White Tower, that's unlikely to happen. Loses another mangonel. Things are starting to swarm a little bit. Demu, this is going to be a hard hold. Lancer numbers still pretty decent. But if the Lancers go down, it's going to be a problem. Oh, Horseman diving on the mangonel. Oh, this time he might get it. If he gets it, it'll be huge. It's going to be close. He body blocks. He keeps it alive for now. Villagers need to come out and repair that, I think. If he can keep it repaired, that's going to be ideal. Going to try and surround it as much as possible, but the longbows, they're diving on in. They might try and snipe it out. Uh-oh, he's right back in, up against it. And yep, this is starting to swarm. Demu struggling. He loses the mangonel, and that's a problem. He does have defender's advantage. And I think the English just keep on chiming on in. He's got plenty of wood in the bank here. I wonder if the English are saving up for siege or what. But he needs 4 more farms. I can tell you that much. He's only got 36. Yeah, the food transition for the English not too spectacular behind this. But it's because he's got his mind set on other things. He's got his mind set on winning the game, and he might just do that in the next 2 minutes, so that farming transition might not come into play. Might not be relevant. And imagine if he had it, it could be an Imperial Age at this point. It's still a smoothish play. He's definitely diving on in and getting damage. Man-at-arms, they're so tanky, even against crossbows. Just didn't have enough of them here, Demu. And even with 3 mangonels, he's struggling. And the good thing for Demu is a lot of his economy is still working hard, right? It's at the back here, though, and it is raidable. And the big thing is its production is here. And so when units pop out, they're going to be taken out quickly. But if the English start to focus on the farming transition here, that will be problematic. A lot of villagers on wood here. Expanding his economy, expanding his production facilities. He needs those production beyond his quick time. He's floating a lot of food, floating a decent amount of stone. Maybe needs a keep, but it might be too little too late because it finds it difficult to maybe get that keep up. Look at the miniature numbers. You're just looking to be overwhelmed here. The English looking good. And it continues to build on up. Yep, now he's seeding more farms. Slowly but surely he's getting there. And as that food income increases, he will edge his way to the Imperial Age. He probably won't need it in the end though. Demu is struggling to hold this farming transition. If he loses a position, it will be curtains. He's going to hold on with a couple of lancers and crossbows, but you know, the English are grouping up together. And bear in mind, the two town centers are making villages, but they'll be sniped as they're made. Granted, he does have already 100, so it's a decent number. But look at the man-at-arms numbers. They're going to steal the show, you think. Now, there is a world in a way. He's got the defender's advantage, so he might clear this up. But if he does clear it up, there's going to be a second wave coming on. It's trying to get a keep on the west side, which should go... I mean, I don't know if he gets us up, actually. There's a couple of units trickling on in. This is going to be a tight one. He abandons it. Oh, that's probably the killer blow, right? Not getting that keep on that position. He needed it. The army wasn't there in the position. Maybe he tried to get it a little bit too early, because he did clear up the army in the end if he waited just a little bit longer. But, you know, he'll get it up now, I suspect. We have to see if the army gets there quick enough. He's going to lose a couple of villages in any case. Villages being pulled back. Doesn't want to risk it just yet. But here come the ranged army from the Abbasid, so should be able to hold his position and get the keep up. Still going to be a dicey hold for sure. And I think at this point, maybe the English would have loved to have been in Imperial Age. But look at the bank of resources in any case. He's going to go to the Imperial Age now. I think he may have bought it from the market, actually. I wonder what he's going to go up with. He's going to go for the Wingard or the Berkshire Palace. Ooh, crazy enough, he's actually going to go for the gold. I mean, he could actually buy a keep, maybe. He's going to go for the Berkshire Palace in a forward position on that 8,000 gold vein. He's got to make sure he gets security of this, maybe with a keep, actually. If he gets a keep there, it'd be really problematic for the Abbasid to push on out, because he must be struggling on gold. Especially when he loses the villagers here. He doesn't have the gold secure. And with the Imperial Age coming on in, Demu's going to struggle, but he might have one window of opportunity to push on in, because the army is scattered for the English. It's actually looking a bit dicey. Uh-oh. Oh no. He spotted it. Demu, he spotted the Berkshire Palace. And if he can't get that up, oh, he's not going to... Uh-oh. He's got to delete that. I mean, there's no army here. He's got to delete it. He can't afford to lose this. There's a lot of resources pumped into him. And if even he gets a couple of torches on there, even if he deletes it, he'll lose the resources. Uh-oh. I mean, he does have a decent number of army heading this way, though, to be fair. So maybe slowly but surely he can get control of this area again. But it's a gamble. It's a dicey one. Pulling villages off for gold. That's a massive raid there by the horsemen. Suddenly, the Abbasids are slowly pulling on out, but... Uh-oh. Is he going to commit to this? Surely not. No, he can't do it. There's just too many units here. Is this a way back for Demu, potentially? Could this be a throw? Could this be a massive upset? It was a really far advanced Berkshire Palace. He's being made to pay the price. The villagers... He might be choking here. An absolute crazy game of Age of Empires 4. This is a... He's actually doing it. Demu, is he finding a way back into the game? Surely not. He needs this Berkshire Palace. At what point does he cut his losses? An absolute insane portion of the game, the last 5 minutes. He has to delete this. There's no way. There's just too many units here for the Abbasids. No way. Is he really gonna... No way. Wait, what? He's putting all of... Oh my god. Guys, that's a lot of villagers. He's committing to it. I mean, he might get it up in the end, but at what cost? There's going to be a lot of villagers dying. I mean, to be fair, he does have a villager lead, but there's still going to be dicey one. And the good thing is that he does have still trickling on units. That's a big difference maker. He will not win the fight, but what he does do, he buys time for the villagers. So he does get the Berkshire Palace in the end. Boy, boy. And that was it. He got a bit of a raid in at the back there, Demu. And he struggled to fulfill that push in the end, and the Berkshire Palace going up was the final straw that broke the camel's back. Unfortunately, we didn't see any camels today. I hope you guys enjoyed this casted game. Take care, and see you next time.